started in the interest of time. We know we have some friends joining us a little bit later, but all the students want to make it through their wonderful presentations. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ortiz. I'm the director of the Proctor Oral History Program. The title of tonight's program is Unidas, Amor y Comunidad. And this is a project created by the Latino Diaspora in the Americas undergraduate seminar. Now, I just want to say a few words about the seminar and really what makes it possible. This is the first time that the University of Florida has offered this seminar. What makes it possible is the support of everyone in this room. My dear colleague Olivia can concur with this. University of Florida has never had a Latino Studies major or department. That puts us a little behind many of our peer institutions. Even schools like UNC Chapel Hill, University of Illinois, certainly a lot of Texas schools, even some Georgia universities now are implementing Latino Studies programs, if not majors, and in fact, in several cases, PhD programs. There's been some very positive movement locally. We actually have my colleague Phil Williams has gone out and garnered some funding to actually create a tenure-track position in Latino Studies, which we're currently recruiting for, so that's a positive development. But we can't move forward and create programs for the study of Latino history and studies, period, unless we prove that there's student interest. And that's where this class comes in. And I want to really begin by giving major props and accolades to the lead instructor of this course, who I've known for many years, who's worked very hard, Genesis Lara. We worked very closely in developing this course, working together in the syllabus. Early on, I'd come in and give a guest lecture every week. Over time, I think people may have gotten tired of me a little bit and kind of asked me to maybe not come every week, so I would come every other week maybe. But seriously, it was very inspirational to see how the project with the Latino Women's League developed as a community-based service learning project. And if you look at Latino Studies programs across the country, ethnic studies programs as well, you'll see that service learning is really an integral part of what we do in ethnic studies. The reason this is because, again, look at this class. It's student generated. This is not something that was created by the faculty. It was not something that was created by the University of Florida administration. It was generated from student input and energy and activism too. And it was the idea of our students to make this an activist, community-oriented course. So I want to start by congratulating and just giving our students major accolades for making that happen. What I also want to say just in closing, this is really just the beginning. And so our proposal is to continue this course into the spring and to make it a part of a major oral history fieldwork trip to Tucson, Arizona, a great place to study ethnic studies. The idea is to learn about the importance of ethnic studies education in underserved communities and what ethnic studies can do, but we also want to discover why some people oppose ethnic studies. In this case, the leadership of an entire school district. We want to prepare our students to really do good field work. And we want to put our college students in contact with high school students in underserved communities in Tucson. And we want to get conversations going together between them. And we want to show that ethnic studies education matters. It's very important. So without further delay, I will turn the floor over to the instructor for the course, Genesis Lara. Thank you.
Buenas noches. I'm not going to speak a lot because I want to give the floor to the students because this is their day and this is their project. First of all, as echoing Dr. Ortiz, I really want to thank everybody for being here because just as we're doing a community project, this project would have never been possible without the support of everybody here. I think I've gone to everybody here for advice, for help, for suggestions, for everything. And I think everybody's pitched in, and because of you all, the students have been able to have what they had this semester. I really want to thank Dr. Ortiz for supporting our crazy ideas the way he always does, and especially the Latino Women's League for going with us in this project. I want to thank the students. This is the first time I ever taught anything, and if it would have been for them, we would have never had the class. They're some of the best individuals I've ever met in my entire life, and I'm not going to keep talking. So, because I'm going to cry, I don't want to do that. But I'm extremely proud of them, and I have nothing else to say. I know they're going to present something amazing. So before we start, we want to start off with saying a poem that this was said in Tucson, Arizona in the beginning of their classes, and this is a big philosophy of what we use for our class and what we believe in and what we hope to keep continuing. So the poem is up here. It's also on the back of the program, so we can... Come on. It's already coming turn. Look at the students. Okay, so we're going to all say the poem together. Some of it is in Spanish. If you don't know Spanish, just put it through us. Okay, so are we all ready? Yes. Okay. Tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo. I love and respect myself. So that's the poem, and I turn over the floor to the students. This is their show. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Carmen Lopez Ramirez. I'm a fourth-year Spanish student. Just like Dr. Ortiz and Genesis said, this project, this class, in and of itself has been so wonderful to us, and it's just so close to our hearts. So just to share with you a little bit of what we have done during the year, the class was designated to create a space that is committed to the learning and the care of Latino students. We feel that we haven't had those classes in our college career, and we are so fortunate to have people such as Genesis and Dr. Ortiz that give us that space. And yeah, we have really worked within the Latino identity, reading Latino authors, reading books about our history, our true history as Latinos here in the United States and in the Americas. So this project itself, as it says here, was the framework of the Latina diaspora in the Americas, was to address themes of race, gender, socioeconomic status, and intersectionalities. The class also focuses on contemporary issues that affect the Latino community, with a special focus on youth activism, which is what you're about to see. The goal of this project was to take everything that was learned in class and apply it to the real Latino community in Gainesville through an analysis of the needs and wants of the community. This project is divided into 3 subsections that focuses on civic engagement, family development, and a resource guide that goes into both. All of these sections serve not only to help the Latino community in Gainesville, but the greater Gainesville community. So with your help, this project isn't just going to be about Latinos. This project is going to be about every other community in Gainesville. We have the tools here as students at the University of Florida, as faculty of the University of Florida. We need to use these resources for the greater good and give this information. Knowledge is something that no one can take away from you. So, with that, I would like to present the Civic Engagement Group, which is Diana and Yarelis Mendez-Zamora.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana. Hi, my name is Yarelis. And we comprise the Civic Engagement Group. So pretty much the idea of civic engagement was to provide resources for students who predominantly are first generation Americans, and so we wanted to give them the resources for them to mobilize and empower the communities from within. And so we wanted to teach them how they could use their citizenship to empower their families and to better their lives as well.
Exactly. It was an attempt to help the students learn about who they are as individuals and who they are as a collective people and what these collective identities have done throughout the years.
So the structure, our long-term goal is to have a 4-week program that would probably start after any standardized testing. So we looked at the calendar, and for this upcoming year, it would be from May 11th through June 6th. And because that's after their standardized testing, there would be 1 class per week. So one hour per week that we would meet with them. And it would predominantly focus on 7th grade civics and 11th grade American history, because we just wanted to focus more on, again, mobilizing them and empowering them within the community.
And here we also find that there is already a type of base established for what we want to talk about. If the judges would flip through the packets that they have, they would also find out how it is that our program fits the Common Core standards that are for, the classes that are here in Florida.
Yeah, so if you click to that slide, you'll see more of our curriculum, which again is in the packet that you all have. So for the first week, we focused on social movements and their impact on history. We talked a lot about the civil rights movement, the immigrant movement, and talk about how that is correlated and ties to students today.
For our second week, we talked about how do families achieve the American dream, and it's to engage the students so that they can think critically about who has access to resources, about what struggles do others face, about what struggles will they themselves face later on in the future.
The third week would be about racial equality and how far we have come and how far we still need to go. Again, this would focus more on the civil rights movement and kind of showing students that there's still a struggle today, and this civil rights has not ended, this fight has not ended, and then having students think about what would they fight for, what would they march for today. And we're actually in a little bit going to go over some of the activities we would do within the racial equality curriculum.
Finally, the last segment would be moving forward. What can I do to make a difference? And it is to really give the students a space where they can think about, okay, I have all of this knowledge, I have all of this information, I have these tools. Now, what can I do to impact my community? What can I do to really make a difference?
And we would teach them through different segues, whether it's like in the career path that you choose, whether you want to run for office one day, whether you want to, mobilize and create groups to fight for whatever issue it is that you're fighting for. These are the tools we hope to give to our students through this curriculum. So now we're going to talk a little bit, give a little mini segment on what a class would be like that we would be teaching. So we chose racial equality because it's very relevant to what's happening in current events today. And again, the topic is how far have we come and how far do we still need to go as a people?
So the civil rights movement was one of the many struggles, and it was a movement that really showed that there were still remnants of slavery in the 60s. It was a culmination of nearly 90 to 120 years of struggle. You can see that it was really a movement that was designed to show that there was a presence of African Americans here, that there was a presence of Latinos as well. That basically, it was a call to have the United States recognize people as human, people who have been otherized historically as having their rights here.
Our plan is to also give just a general overview of the history during the civil rights movement, because we're already assuming we look through the curriculum in 7th grade civics and American history. They've already had more detailed, learning about the civil rights. So it's first a brief overview, of what happened, the main themes, the main concepts, and then going deeper and connecting it to, again, going back to today, what's happening today. So
exactly. It would be to help the students really reflect on themselves and their roles in society.
So by connecting it to what's happening today, we wanted to show a short clip.
We the people.
And before you started, everyone has an excerpt that we're going to show right now from Obama's speech, A More Perfect Union, which he gave in 2008. And so this is how we first started connecting students to, this, racial inequality affects you today, and he goes deeper into that. So we're going to watch a segment of that now.
The fact is that the comments that have been made and the issues that have surfaced over the last few weeks reflect the complexities of race in this country that we've never really worked through. A part of our union that we have not yet made perfect. And if we walk away now, if we simply retreat into our respective corners, we will never be able to come together and solve challenges like healthcare or education or the need to find good jobs for every American. Understanding this reality requires a reminder of how we arrived at this point. As William Faulkner once wrote, the past isn't dead and buried. In fact, it isn't even past. We do not need to recite here the history of racial injustice in this country. But we do need to remind ourselves that so many of the disparities that exist between the African American community and the larger American community today can be traced directly to inequalities passed on from an earlier generation that suffered under the brutal legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. Segregated schools were and are inferior schools. We still haven't fixed them 50 years after Brown versus Board of Education. And the inferior education they provided, then and now, helps explain the pervasive achievement gap between today's black and white students. Legalized discrimination, where blacks were prevented, often through violence, from owning property, or loans were not granted to African American business owners, or black homeowners could not access FHA mortgages, or blacks were excluded from unions, or the police force, or the fire department, meant that black families could not amass any meaningful wealth to bequeath to future generations. That history helps explain the wealth and income gap between blacks and whites and the concentrated pockets of poverty that persist in so many of today's urban and rural communities. A lack of economic opportunity among black men and the shame and frustration that came from not being able to provide for one's family contributed to the erosion of black families, a problem that welfare policies for many years may have worsened, and the lack of basic services in so many urban black neighborhoods, parks for kids to play in, police walking the beat, regular garbage pickup, building code enforcement, all help create a cycle of violence, blight, and neglect that continues to haunt us.
So after we show the clip, we would ask students to pair up with the person next to them, get 2 different color highlighters, and highlight, every instance of discrimination that President Obama mentioned in his speech and the consequences of discrimination. And then we'll work on that for a couple minutes together, and then we would talk about it as a group afterwards.
Some of the reflection questions that they would have to answer is, where are we on the road to true equality of the races in our country, and how much further do you still think we need to come?
Afterwards, we will play another activity called 4 Corners. And so right now we're going to kind of do a segment of that, and we're going to ask our class to participate. They're each going to stand in a corner. We're going to pretty much act as if this was a normal class that we would be teaching, and so they're going to have different views than they normally would take, just to give a general idea of, what the 7th grade civics class or 11th grade American history class would be like. So we ask all of you to stand in your corner, your respective corner, of what you all think we are today with racial equality in the United States.
There's some in the back over there as well. The last 2 rows.
So, sorry, I don't know what to do. This one is corner number 4. So the people in this corner believe that we have come all the way and achieved complete racial equality in our country, and we have no work left to do. This corner says we have made some progress, but we still have a lot of work left to do. There is some racial equality in this country, but not enough. What corner are you?
That there is no progress and there is no racial equality in the United States.
And this is the 3rd one, and it says that we have made very good progress, but we still have a lot of work to do.
So after the students have chosen their respective corners of where they feel the racial equality is today, we would ask them to then kind of debate and defend their corner. Why did they choose that corner, and what do you feel, some current events today that are happening that made you choose that? So would any student like to participate and like to defend their corner?
Well, hello everyone, my name is Brittany. Well, first of all, my classrooms are now mixed race, so I have classmates that get to sit right beside me. I can sit in any part of my
What's your
classroom.
corner again? I'm sorry.
My corner is we have come all the way and achieved complete racial equality. Then we also have a president that's biracial, and he happens to look just like my little brother, and that makes me feel very comfortable. I feel like we're past having racism. I can also sit in the bus, any position in the bus that I would like to sit at. I don't have to go to a separate water fountain or shop at a different, shopping center. I pretty much have freedom to do that, and my skin color doesn't stop me from moving how I want to move around. So,
awesome. Does another corner want to share? Yes.
I believe that the United States is very hypocritical. It is all a facade. I think that although there isn't an institutionalized slavery, we are all slavery in the mind, slaves in the mind. I think that, there's only a certain place that I can go as far as like my career, and in society I'm still looked at as an other. So I feel like, no, we have no progress.
Anyone else? Yes.
I'm corner number 2, and we say that we have some progress, but not enough. We need more. Just look at the news. With all the marches that are going on, they're for a reason. We may have come superficially far, but down where it matters in the justice system, we're nowhere near where we need to be.
And anyone else? Jane.
Well, hi, my name's Janie, and my family's from Cuba, so I stand here due to personal experience, and I say that when you compare the United States with Cuba, for example, Cuba has no equality. There's a lot of progress in that country. In comparison, the United States has made a lot of progress, and they stand for democracy and equality.
Awesome. So now that you all have heard your classmates and their perspectives, does anyone kind of want to change to another corner? Maybe someone, influence or change your perspective based on their personal experiences or what they mentioned about current events? All right, would anyone who moved would like to share why they decided to move to another corner?
well, after hearing Carmen talk, I do realize that, there isn't as much progress as I think there is, because we wouldn't have a reason to be protesting or marching if everything was essentially equal. So after hearing her talk about the marches, I think that we may have a little bit more work to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have to say that democracy is a struggle, and it's a struggle that must keep going and continue. You can't just stay stagnant forever.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we want to thank everyone for participating. So you don't miss the film.
So then what the activity does is that it asks the students to really think about what does racial equality mean and what does it mean for you personally.
Yeah, so afterwards we would come back to the center group and go over again these reflection questions. What played the largest role in your belief about how far we have come? Was it the media, some personal experiences like Janie being from Cuba, your friends, what you heard on the news, the marching, current events, such things like that. And then we would ask them, is there any particular event in recent history that has made you feel strongly about your belief? And then we would again ask them to discuss that.
Yeah, and these questions ask the students to really think about the society that we live in, about how it is that current events are impacting the course of their lives today.
Then to conclude this, workshop, we would ask students, what would you fight for? And so each of you has another handout that we would hand out to students, and it has 2 questions on it. And the questions are, what would you march for? Defend and explain why this cause or belief is important enough to march for. And what would you want to accomplish? How would you know if it had been accomplished? We would have students, reflect on these questions 5 to 10 minutes, and the goal of this is again to bring it back to them. Sometimes it's hard to keep the attention of students for an hour, especially such young students. So it's always coming back and tying history to how this affects them today. And so that's the goal with what would you fight for. So through this class, we also had a great opportunity to do some oral interviews. And so for me, I took the opportunity to interview my grandma, who migrated to this country in 1962 from Cuba. And for me, it was really interesting to learn a lot about that history. I feel like I interact with my grandma as often as possible, but we never get into these deep conversations as to, like, why did you migrate here? And, what did you have to sacrifice to come here? And so this project really allowed me to, like, get into the mind of my grandmother and see how much she really has sacrificed for my family. And so I took my favorite quote from the interview, and this is when I asked her, what were your hopes and dreams for your kids and your grandkids when you came over here? And so I wanted to tie this to my hopes and my dreams for my students when I would, have this workshop for them. And it says, que sean bueno, que sean honrado, que sean estudioso y deseo lo mejor. And that says that they are good, honorous, studious, and I wish them the best.
Yes, I interviewed a family member as well. The person that I interviewed was the first woman in my family to come to the United States, my aunt. And when my aunt came to the United States, she was undocumented. So she passed through the desert, she passed through the river, and when she came here, she had no money, she had no language, she did not know how to speak English, and she spent 2 days outside of a hotel crying because she had no money. And she was alone in this country. So it got really emotional because my aunt told me that the best day of her life was when my cousin was born. And the second best day of her life was when she became a citizen. And it was incredible to hear how she became a citizen, even though when she first came over, she was undocumented. To hear her struggles and to know that now she can vote, to now that she has access to resources. So in tying that back into how can you become an advocate for your community and use the privileges that you have to really stand up for the people who do not have a voice.
And I think that ties to the overall our meaning for this class. And so for me, it was a lot about how much I learned about myself and how much I learned about my community. And I think the most important thing that I took away from this class is learning that people need to be empowered from within. Empowerment or, people coming from the outside cannot come to a community and change it. It has to come from within. They have to be ready to take on action and to march. Again, going back to what would you march for, it has to come from within the community. And I think that's the biggest thing I took from this class. And I truly am leaving ready to empower my community.
There's a quote that I really liked, and it's, por mi raza hablará mi espíritu. And through this class, I learned so much about myself, so much about my own history, and so much about what affects me, what's my inner drive. And I learned that I'm a daughter of resistance, and I'm a daughter of survival. My people are here, and my people stem from a culture of resistance. They are a proud people, and this class reflects me. And it is the first time that I have seen a curriculum like this that truly reflects the struggles of students in a predominantly white institution.
So thank you again, and now we want to introduce the next group, which is the Family Development Group. And we want to call Brittany Hibbert, Carmen Lopez Ramirez, Diego Castillo, and Brittany Mejia.
Thank you again, team. Again, my name is Carmen Lopez Ramirez, and this is Brittany Hibbert.
Diego Castillo.
And I'm Brittany Mejia.
And we are the Family Development Team. So we've developed a series, and we've divided into four different groups that will touch on 4 different aspects of family life. Brown and Crowned will talk about mother-daughter relationships. Mujeres Rompiendo Fronteras will talk about women empowerment in the community. The Brotherhood will talk about the male's role in society and in the family. And Multi-Status Families is a project that will talk more about intergenerational and multi-status communities and families and how to deal with those changes that occur because of these issues that we can't really control. So our mission statement, I'll read it because I think it's beautiful. Our subsections combined will help families of color strengthen interpersonal relationships and provide resources for men, women, and children to be civically responsible members of the Gainesville community. So, with that, I want to present Brittany Hibbert, who will talk about the Family Week.
Hello
Hello, everybody. First of all, I just want to say thank you. We have a very small, intimate family that we've built out of our class, and we also know how hard Professor Lara has been working on putting together the curriculum and giving us a safe space to learn. So first of all, we want to thank you for that opportunity because we now have a family within each other, and we didn't exist a couple months ago. And this project really is coming from our individual needs to create spaces like the one we had in class for other students and people in Gainesville. So first of all, we wanted to create a family weekend that would give families a chance to kind of get a preview of what they would be signing up for. We understand that a lot of these families already have time commitments, and we don't want them to have to commit to a 2-week trial period or to a longer program if they don't have the time or if it won't suit their families. So what we've done is that we've created a day, and we've created our interval for each program to where the families can come in, figure out what the program is about, and then find out if they would like to sign up for it afterwards. So starting, we would have refreshments and introductions, and then after that, we'd have the bridge program. After that, following that is the brotherhood. We have the break hours, so families have to leave, of bathroom breaks and other things that families have to do in between. Then we have Brown and Crowned, and then we have Carmen's program. And what happens is after the programs, they'll be able to sign up. They can ask more questions, and we're also asking that they give us feedback after the introductory session, because we do have mini models, and then we have long-term models for each of our 4 programs that we've created. So by giving the families a chance to be a part of the planning period, it gives us time to figure out what they need the most, because we're creating these programs from the outside, so we don't know exactly what they need. We kind of have a framework for it. So by having this day and time for them to do this, we're hoping that they'll participate and give us feedback before we begin the 2-week model. Okay, so my program was called Brown and Crown. The reason I called it Brown and Crown is for obvious reasons. We're all different shades of brown, and it's lovely and beautiful. And crown is because I wanted young women to be reminded that they are royalty. I think a lot of the way that we interact with other people and the way we interact with ourselves has a lot to do with the way we see ourselves. So I wanted to, from the bat, give these young women an idea that you are royalty. So you have to act like it. And when you own that, then you'll carry it with you. So this program is designed to strengthen the relationship among women of color in the Gainesville community, especially African Americans and Latinos, with the help of trained professionals and adults who are already trusted members of the child's community. So the reason I said women of color there, it doesn't have to be a mother-daughter relationship. Some young women do not grow up with their mothers. They might have an aunt, a grandmother, an older sister. So any significant female figure in their life, this is the program for them to be able to go through the entire program with. So again, it doesn't have to be a mother. And then also I put here that students should be at least 13 years old. The topics that we talk about in this program are mature topics. So we want to make sure that the students participating are actually going to be able to understand and benefit from what we're talking about. So if the child has not gone through maybe a kind of abuse, or if they haven't gone through bullying or other topics that we're talking about, we want to make sure that they're going to be old enough to really understand these topics. So goals. So my short-term goal following the family weekend would have a successful 2-week trial program that would introduce the teenagers to the structure of the program and gain more feedback. So this is actually after we've gone through the family weekend and the interested teens have signed up and they've gone through the program. So after this 2-week program that we're going to have at Gainesville High School, they'll be able to give us more feedback to even further refine the program. And a long-term goal would have a permanent 8-week program to be first implemented at Gainesville High School and then later implemented at other area high schools or centers where it's needed within Gainesville. Now, I know that this program, well, sadly enough in our society, a lot of issues that are coming up now are not just for teenagers. We find that, the younger students get is the more they have to deal with things. So if this program is successful in the high school level, I would like to bring it to the middle schools and maybe have a less intensive as far as topic-wise, but have a program that can also go into the middle school level as well. But I would like to focus on the age group of 13 to 18. So this is inside of your booklets that you guys have. There is a more detailed program there, so you can see for yourself. I didn't want to overload here on the screen, but like I said, the location would be at Gainesville High School, and because this is the trial program, we'd have it 2 days a week for 2 weeks. I've noted here you need, giving them time 1 to 2 hours to fully go through the presentation for the speaker, discussion, and any reflections. And then the only materials that they would need is a pen and a reflection notebook, and to come with an open mind and be ready to talk. Right here, I have the speaker. I have Mr. Joe Johnson. He's actually one of the people here. We thank you for coming. He was here and he did a presentation for our class, and it was probably one of the most moving presentations that I've been in. And it wasn't particularly long, but the first thing he asked us was, "Who are you?" And we really had to sit down as young people and think about, like, who am I? Like, and you know, separating ourselves from labels. So aside from being a student and a daughter and a Black woman, who else was I? And it was very, very moving for me as a young woman to have that time to go through that presentation. So I noted here that I would love to have him be one of the first speakers that these girls go and get to hear him talk and go through one of his presentations. And as far as facilitators, we would have someone from their school or one of the counselors that we have here on campus, just because they're trained to make sure that these conversations go smoothly. By having these people there, we can also ensure that the students might be more comfortable speaking, and that's also a big thing. We want to make sure that they understand that they have a safe place to talk, because I think one of the bigger problems that we have within communities of color is that we don't ask for help when we need it. So I wanted to create a space where women of color would be able to talk with another figure in their life that was also a female and develop that voice so that they use that voice later on in their lives, be it if they're going to go to college or if they're going to go into another workforce. And down here for the program structure, we would start with the poem that we said when we started the program. When we first started the program, it moved all of us, and I think it's a very amazing poem as far as what it can do for unifying a group of people. And I want the girls to be unified not only with the significant female figure in their life, but also the group that they're going to be with, because they are going to transform by the end of the program. So to unify them as a whole is very important. Following that, they'd have a reflection minute. I've noted on the paper what kind of questions they might say and ask themselves during reflection. Then they have time to discuss within their peers what they've written. And then after that, you're going to reintroduce the theme and the speaker. And then the speaker has time to do their uninterrupted presentation. So following their presentation would be a roundtable discussion where the facilitators can also interject. And also each pair has a chance to ask each other questions and also ask the presenter questions. And then following that, they have another reflection time. And the second reflection time is to think about how they view themselves differently after hearing the presenter do his or her speech. And then following that, they have a closing moment of serenity, because a lot of these topics are loaded and they're going to need time to kind of sit back and think about what has all been said and brought forth. It's going to be an emotional time for these young women. So you want to make sure that you do give yourself and the speaker and everyone else involved time to kind of unwind. And then following the 2-week model, this is the permanent 8-week model. If you notice here, the times have changed to only being 1 day a week for 8 weeks because it is an 8-week program. That is a substantial amount of time to ask a young teenager who is probably doing just as much as I do in college as far as extracurriculars and trying to keep up with classwork. So we want to make sure that we're being respectful of the teenager's time. And I would like to have up to 12 pairs or 24 people. And I do note that a lot of the students in the schools might not necessarily be fluent English speakers, so we want to make sure we have translators of other languages as well to make sure that the girls are getting the full benefit of the program. And then following that, the materials are the same. Some of the themes here, like I noted before, they are, heavy themes. They could include identity, beauty in the media, love, education, careers, family abuse, different kinds of abuse I've noted here. Some girls might not have any abuse in their lives at all, and that probably would be a week that they would not have to attend. And that's also something I want to mention. If there's a week that doesn't necessarily pertain to that young student's life, she does not have to participate in it. So I know personally, I myself have not gone through any significant physical, emotional, sexual, or substance abuse, so that week would not necessarily be a week that I would have anything to contribute or learn from, essentially. So the students have time as to pick which parts of the seminar they would like to attend. And then a music week, and then lastly a full reflection week where the girls are able to interact on a whole and look at themselves, how much they've changed over the 2 months. And then the program structure here essentially is going to be the exact same. So this is what I would hope to see if the program was going to be implemented at our high school. And so why does this program matter? Why do we need a space for young women to talk to each other? Why not everyone? Why is this program important, and how does it relate to what we've learned in our class? It is not enough for people to come together in dialogue in order to gain knowledge of their social reality. They must act together upon their environment in order to critically reflect upon their reality, and so transform it through further action and critical reflection. This stuck out to me when I first saw the quote, and I knew immediately this is why our program mattered. Throughout our entire semester, Professor Lara, she has created time and space for us to reflect. Actually, if you go to the next slide, it would be perfect. She's made sure that we were challenged not only intellectually, but also emotionally. And everything that we could have possibly touched on in the semester, we've done. The 10 of us, we have cried together. Don't cry, Jimmy. We've cried together. We have laughed together. We've told stories we probably wouldn't have shared with anyone else, and because we had a safe space to talk. And you really wouldn't think about how important that is to a young person, but it truly is to have that space. And what I've learned is that the 3 main things that any scholar needs to be successful is you need a safe place and time to reflect. So by having time to sit down and talk to your classmates and ask yourself, why does this mean something to me? Myself, I'm a history major, and one thing that we always have to do in our papers is we have to connect to the reading. So if I'm not connecting to my readings, if I'm not connecting to my community, my work is not mattering. So I need to be able to reflect on whatever I'm reading, any documentaries I'm seeing, and anything. That is first and foremost. After that, I need unabridged content to learn about myself and my community. In our class, we were able to read things we probably couldn't read in any other class. I shouldn't have to fight for a class like that. This should be a part of everyone's gen ed requirements. I shouldn't have to just learn about one group of people. And to be able to have a class where I'm able to read these type of documents and learn things I haven't learned in any of my other classes was so important to me. And I'm the only Black student in my class, and I'm not, never once did I feel like I don't belong here. I learned so much by having Latino classmates, and I'm getting better at my Spanish. I'm getting better, but I'm not all the way there. But being around them, I never once felt like, wait a minute, my classmates are all Hispanic and I'm not. What we were reading and learning, it meant just as much to me as it meant to them. Anything that we read that was in Spanish, I had my translations, so I was able to read and gather the same thing from it that my classmates did. And that is very important. And then lastly, you need opportunities to use your knowledge in the community. Being able to put together a project like this that somebody can pick up and use and go out into the community and actually use is very important. I think a lot of times college students, we go through these classes and we ask ourselves, I don't need this. I'm going to be a teacher. I don't need to learn about the solar system. I'm not a science, I'm not in the sciences, or I don't need to understand CLR Janes. Has nothing to do with me. But when you're able to have a class like this, when you put together a project and you can look at it and say, wow, I had a hand in this. This is something that is going to benefit someone else. It adds so much more importance to what you're doing. So just to be able to have a class, to do that is really, really important. So this project means the world to me as a future educator, as a woman of color, as someone who at first never used her voice and then had to grow into it. It is very, very important that we give young women of color a chance to develop their voices. They won't use it if they don't have it. So I really hope that this project grows into something else. But thank you for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. And next up, we have my very good friend, Carmen Lopez Ramirez. She's going to talk about her part of the project.
All right. Thank you once again. I'm up here. Let me just say one thing before I start. This is a booklet that we keep referring to, which is a book I will refer to, which is also the book that we all keep referring to. The judges currently have it, but we invite you to pass this around, take a look at it, and so you have an idea of what we're doing, a deeper understanding of what we're doing. So, thank you very much. Like I said, my name is Carmen. My project is called Mujeres Rompiendo Fronteras, Women Breaking Barriers. This project itself means a whole lot to me, just as much as every project meant a lot to the other students. And the purpose of my project was to establish a safe and comfortable area for women to learn about the laws, processes, and education of their children, their families' health, and legal rights as immigrant families. The goals are very simple. The short-term goals is to revise the resource guide to make sure it works for them, make sure that the format of the series works for them, make sure that the information that is given to them is what they need, and nothing more, nothing less. It's exactly what they need. The long-term goal is to have a weekly meeting where participants can discuss these topics, and learn from each other. Now, those goals seem very simple. But just how it was for for Brittany's project, mine also has a 2-week model, and it also has a long-lasting model. Now, the 2-week model will be, I want to invite women between the ages of 14 and 40. I want it to be at a local church, be a 1-hour session after church, where they are all ready to gather with their families. The resource that they are going to use is their guide to Gainesville. I'm sorry, any more thoughts? This will be the main guide that they will use, and they're going to require pens, paper, and within the 2 weeks, Week 1, we will talk about childcare, education, and healthcare. So within the guide itself, if you take a look, there are sections where we talk about childcare needs, a section about education, both for their children and for themselves, and a section for healthcare. For week 2, we will discuss legal rights and the path to citizenship. So legal rights, of course, what are their rights as people here who don't have the right documentation, and a path to citizenship. Many people think that there's one way to citizenship, but just as I learned in my class with Professor Noajas, there are many paths to citizenship that many students don't know, that many students and many women don't know about. So the procedure of this course will be very simple. We're going to begin with introductions, we're going to be handing out food, and then we're going to hand out the resource guide. And we're going to talk about the issues that are within this, the issues that they want to talk about, and the sections that we provide within the resource guide. And we'll end with a prayer and with the same VIDS poem that we all began with. If you haven't noticed, that VIDS poem will come up a lot, and has come up a lot because it means so much to us as a class. We learned that it meant a lot to the students that were taking ethnic studies courses in Arizona, and knowing how impactful it is for them, it makes me want to cry whenever I hear it and whenever I say it, because I know the impact it has, and I know the impact it's had on my life. So, to go into a little bit more depth of what I want these women to learn, what I see, what I have learned from my research and from talking to people in the community, they want to know how to register their children to schools. They want to know how to pick them up, who to call concerning their child's safety and well-being, and a guide to the U.S. education process from pre-kindergarten to postgraduate degrees. For all of us in this classroom, these are very basic things. We don't have to think twice as to where we're going to register our students. We can look online, the different schools that are in our district, where I can go talk to these people, how I can register them, how to pick them up. We don't think twice about when we're going to pick our students up, where we're going to take them. But for these women, if you don't have an identification, you can't pick up your children, even if you are their mother. This is a huge issue for them. So how are they going to go about it? They need to ask someone else to go and pick up their children. They may have to ask their kids to walk home, which may not be in the safest areas. Who to call concerning their child's safety and well-being. They may not know what the principal's number because they may be too scared. They may not know the vice principal. They may not know who the faculty is in their school. And a guide to the U.S. education process. We're very fortunate to go through this process, and if we don't have an idea, we can go online and search things up. But for many women, they may not even have the access to the internet, which for us, we find everywhere, in our pockets, on our watches now, anywhere on campus. So I found that these were issues that, again, for us are so basic, but for them they're so important. When we're talking about healthcare, food groups here in America seems to be out of whack, right? And it's so easy to fall into the idea that you need to eat the cheapest thing. And I want to educate these women and tell them that no, there are easier ways to get the good meals that you need for your family. The importance of balancing a budget, local clinics to visit, and a list of symptoms and remedies for the common cold, influenza, chickenpox, and allergies. For the common cold, influenza, chickenpox, and allergies, these may not be things that for new mothers they may know about. These are things that for us, we grew up with again. We have the access to all of these healthcare centers, but again, they may not know where to take their children or what the symptoms are for certain things. And if they do, how are they going to get them? Next slide. Thank you. For legal rights and citizenship, immigration classes, English classes, and a pathway to citizenship. And it's all again in the guide to Gainesville. So following the full model, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. This exists. What I'm trying to do is use my access. I have such an easy access to all this information. I want to gather all this information with my classmates and be able to give it to them in the easiest way possible. translated into Spanish with English for their children. So essentially, again, we're inviting women from the ages of 14 to 40. We're going to talk about all of these issues again, but we're going to include more topics that will go more in depth into what they're going through. We may not know this, and it happens in our own communities, whether we are a migrant or not. Domestic violence seems to be a huge deal, and within the Latino community, it is known that we have a lot of issues that we don't talk about, and they go unheard because it's domestic violence, because it's our fathers who are abusing us, because it's our brothers who are abusing us, our uncles. So we want to bring that to light as well in a safe environment. So why? Why is this important? Why do I need this? I was so lucky to meet a woman here in Gainesville, and she's in the back. And I met her through the Latina Women's League the last day of class because we were both Guatemalan. And for me, that's a huge deal for me to find someone else who's from Guatemala, right? Because there aren't many of us that I know of, at least. And so I immediately got really happy. I jumped in the car and I told Liana, and I was like, I met this woman and she looks like me and she's from my country and I need to talk to her because she's doing social work, she loves this, she's been doing this for a long time, and she's the type of person that I need guidance from. So I went ahead and I talked to her, and the last portion of her interview, she told me this. There are many different experiences. Some of us are received in this country with open arms, but others face obstacles much bigger than that. For some it's easy, for others it's a tougher path. And this seems like it's the rhetoric that we hear all the time from people. But when you really listen to it from someone who has come here, from someone whom you can identify with, it has a deeper meaning. And I'm so glad to be in this class where I'm able to listen to something and not take it for granted. I'm able to actually gather this, everything I'm hearing, and fully take it into account and apply it into my life with respect. And I feel like it was fate to meet her because she gave me that jolt of energy that I needed to continue this project. Now, the reason why I decided to do this project, when Genesis approached me early in the semester for this, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something with women, something with migrant women, because when I thought of my experience during that class, when I thought of my experience as an immigrant woman, when I thought of my experience as a first-generation student, it was my mother who was always pushing me forward. She was the one person who was always there for me, who, if she didn't know something, she went out and she sought it. You know, if she sought a church community that welcomed her, a community that embraced her, that brought her to therapists, that brought her to teachers, that showed her how great life here is. And she was able to give that to me. And for me to start a program here that will do just that for these women, and to see that, to know from experience that if you give someone the tools necessary, they are going to be able to pass on that knowledge and that information to someone else. It's just amazing. So that was number one for me. And everything just seems to come together so nicely. So I thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope that together we can fulfill this and every single project that we have here. This isn't just our project, our team's project. This is our project, our entire community's project. This is UF's project. This is Gainesville's project for a better community. So up next, we have The Brotherhood with Diego Castillo Jr.
How's everybody doing? All right, thank you for coming. We really appreciate your attendance and your attention to all this. So mine, just like Carmen said, is the Brotherhood. And what inspired me to really focus on this segment is the fact that myself as a man of color, young, I want other guys to really have the same opportunities that I have. And I know that a lot of male of color here at the University of Florida I feel like there's a lot of kids out here that, you know, they might not know that these opportunities exist for them. Okay, and I think that's really important to really show them the many issues that they face today, and as well as to sort of how to guide them to make sure that these opportunities are equally as accessible for them. All right, so the purpose of this segment is to assist young males of color in the Gainesville community through interactive workshops, discussions, and activities that will give them a better understanding of various topics and issues that are faced in the community. This will then enable them to have a renewed sense of self and development that will be geared for higher achievement. All right, so the first goal for the short-term 2-week program is just a preview of how it's going to be for the long-term. This really serves as an introduction. All right, that's where the key speakers will come in, introduce themselves, and create sort of an environment for higher learning, and at the end of the day, a family, just like we developed in this class. All right. For the long term, it's going to be 8 weeks, and this is where students will be able to reflect on different themes other than identity, which is for the first 2 weeks. And it will touch on various topics such as education, violence, drugs, as well as get more in depth in male identity. And there's the basic components of the two programs is for high school male students located in Gainesville High School. The duration of each session will be 1.5 hours to 2 hours. For the first 2 weeks, it will be twice a week. And then for the long-term 8 weeks, will be once a week, and it will be held after school. These are the various topics of interest, like I said. The materials needed would be paper pen, computer, projector, audio, 40 chairs, and speakers. Like I said, guest speakers will include faculty from not only the University of Florida, but for the high school, where they feel a little more comfortable of talking and relating to people where they face similar issues, and they're people that they can also look up to. And basic sessions will be an icebreaker for 10 minutes just to get the juice flowing, just to get everybody minds right. And then show a video or a presentation based on the topic, just so they get some kind of visual of these issues. Because I know for a fact, men, I can speak for everybody, we're pretty much visual people for the most part. Then the speaker will go ahead and get into a deep discussion of the topic. Right after that is the student participation, where they either pair up or whatever the speaker will want to do. They get together, they discuss, and this is where they really get to reflect, and this is where they really start learning from themselves and how to grow from these kind of things. And at the end, have a closing debrief, and that's also to reflect on what just happened in the session, so that they can go home, and that's where the growth starts. And there's two key components for this program. Number one is the mentoring program. And this is essential. Without the mentors, it's not going to be a success. There's going to be many students that have language barriers, okay? Me speaking from experience, coming to this country, not knowing English. I needed someone there to sort of get that wheel going in this country, because that's very important to be successful. You need to learn English. There's going to be a lot of first generations where they really don't know what to do, where to go, how to apply for college, all those kind of things. So they need someone there to sort of just push them, motivate them, so that they can see that there's a better person in themselves. A lot of these kids may face distraction in the community. They can be lonely at home, and they just have simply no motivation. All right. So the mentors will be a 3-to-1 ratio. We're looking at 25 to 30 students. All right. And there's going to be one mentor per 3 students. Okay. So we can have these passionate leaders, not only from the University of Florida, but anybody in the community, where they can get training from the Center for Leadership and Service, where they can provide those kind of things. The second component are the keynote speakers or the guests, and this will be a sort of way for them to relate to these leaders. All right, and this is where they can really just have a clear view. Okay, let's say I'm an athlete and I want to see my high school coach come in here and tell his story. Right there they feel a little more comfortable, and it's just for better reflection. For the 2-week program, like I said, it's just an intro. There's going to be 2 activities for this. One is called a dyadic encounter. This is where students get into pairs for like 10 to 15 minutes, and they go over a questionnaire. And right here, this is where we create the kind of environment of comfort and to establish a family. And they go through this questionnaire. It talks about different topics, like what are you scared of? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What makes you the happiest? Just very deep kind of personal questions that you don't normally ask to a stranger. So this will sort of encourage them to take that mask off, let their guard down, and just be themselves. Okay, because that's what many of these men face today. They have this sort of mindset that I have to be this, I have to do that. We're judged based on the amount of girls we may sleep with, how many people we get in a fight with, all those kind of stereotypes. And right here is going to teach them to not base a book off its cover, okay? Not be so judgmental. And then there's the tape activity. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. You have 2 groups on each side. The keynote speaker is going to ask questions, and if it relates to you, you go ahead and step on the tape. And this is where they sort of get familiar with each other and the fact that, hey, this person is going through the same thing I am. I'm not so lonely after all. Okay, so through these 2 activities, it's going to establish that kind of comfort and the environment for higher learning. They're also going to fill out a little profile, little facts about themselves, so we can make the best pairs for the mentor and mentees. And then they introduce the theme, which would be identity. This is going to focus on masculinity ideology, the sex, which I'm pretty sure is going to excite a lot of students. Romantic relationship quality, and this really inspired me because I watch ESPN all the time, okay, and I look up to these athletes, and then I see Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson get into these kind of issues, and these are people that they can really relate to because they're men of color. Okay, and if they see that, hey, they can get in trouble as well, just because you have a lot of money, it doesn't really mean anything. No, they have to lead by example as well and learn from other people's mistakes. Yeah, all right, go ahead. So for the 8-week program, like I said, it's gonna continue to run the same sessions, but this here we're gonna touch on different topics. The first one is criminal justice. As we see on the news, all this stuff about police brutality, the rights that certain males may or may not have. I want these males to really be prepared of the fact that, hey, at the end of the day, you can be the next person. But when we look at these facts, such as while people of color make up about 30% of the United States population, they account for 60% of those in prison. Once convicted, black offenders receive longer sentences compared to white offenders. Voter laws that prohibit people with felony convictions to vote disproportionately impact men of color. Okay, and this is the kind of issues that they're going against. And we got to get these kids as prepared as possible to not fall into those hands, but also learn and be knowledgeable of how the society is working. We're going to look at Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and the recently case of Eric Garner. Another one is education. This is a big problem because right here, you can look at the graduation rates. The 52% of black males and 58% of Latino males who enter as a freshman are the only ones to finish. Okay, that's around half. And at this rate, it will take nearly 50 years for black males to graduate at the same rate as white males. Okay? And like I said, this could be due to different distractions going on at home, the whole masculinity issue. There's various factors that affects these kids from graduating and ending up going to college. So these mentors will be able to help them prepare for the next step, for exam preparation, to take all the SATs and whatnot, prepare their college applications, and apply for financial aid, because these are opportunities that these kids just don't know about. And like I'm here today is because someone pushed me to push my boundaries. Another thing that we're going to look into, well, in education as well, they're going to look at the high school to prison pipeline. All right. So they're going to look at all these facts, and this is really going to shock them, because when I first saw this, I was appalled. You know, And like I said, they're very visual. So we sort of need to throw these things out there, the fact that you can be a victim too. And if you don't get your stuff together, anything can happen, really. And I go by the quote of the Chief Justice Earl Warren of Brown versus Board of Education, 1954. In these days, it is doubtful that any child may reasonably be expected to succeed in life if he is denied the opportunities of an education. Such an opportunity, where the state has undertaken to provide it, is a right that must be made available on all equal terms. This was about 50 years ago, and yet it's not as equal that we thought. Next is drug and violence. This is a big one. Here, people of color account for the majority of gun violence victims. Gun violence is one of the leading causes of death for teens. The militarization of school safety and orderliness most heavily impacts children of color. So these kids need to get away from the distraction and find different avenues to find happiness, to find success, and have a brother. Because at the end of the day, most likely it's because these kids are alone and they need someone there with them. Recommended additions for the long-term program is to take trips to the University of Florida, where they can just feel themselves, put their feet on the ground of this campus, so that they can be motivated to really come here one day. Another one would be the athletic department. It'd be really cool for these kids to just experience firsthand as something that they may be able to participate in if they work really hard. Another one can be the detention center. This is where really they get an understanding one-on-one with some of the kids that play victims to these things, where they can not only learn from them, but also they can learn from these students that there is hope. All right. And what if adult male figures can't really make it to these kind of sessions after school? Here we can bring the program to the community, to their homes. You can either bring it to the church or a community center. And this will really encourage the male guardians or fathers to participate in these kind of topics and also get some knowledge in. Go ahead. And I'm going to end it with this 3-minute video.
Stop crying. Stop with the tears. Don't cry. Pick yourself up. Stop with the emotion.
Don't be a pussy.
Don't let nobody disrespect you. Be cool and be kind of a dick.
Always keep your mouth shut. Nobody likes a tattletale.
Bros come before hoes. Don't let your woman run your life. You bitch. What a fag. Get laid. Do something. Be a man.
Be a man.
Grow some balls. The 3 most destructive words that every man receives when he's a boy is when he's told to be a man.
We've constructed an idea of masculinity in the United States that doesn't give young boys a way to feel secure in their masculinity, so we make them go prove it all the time.
Within their peer group culture, each of them is posturing based on how the other boys are posturing, and what they end up missing is what they each really want, which is just that closeness.
In good times, guys are really close to each other, but when things get a little bit worse, you're on your own.
From middle school, I had 4 really close friends. But once I kind of went into high school, I struggle finding people I can talk to because I feel like I'm not supposed to get help.
Our kids get up every morning. They have to prepare their mask for how they're going to walk to school. A lot of our students don't know how to take the mask off. What is it you don't let people see? Almost 90% of you have pain and anger on the back of that paper.
If you never cry, then you have all these feelings stuffed up inside of you, and then you can't get them out.
They really buy into a culture that doesn't value what we've feminized. If we're in a culture that doesn't value caring, doesn't value relationships, doesn't value empathy, you are going to have boys and girls, men and women go crazy.
I had anger issues in high school. I felt like an outcast.
I've been suspended at least once every year I was here. We would just look for trouble and just try to fight.
Boys are more likely to act out. They're more likely to become aggressive. Most people miss that as depression or see it as a conduct disorder or just a bad kid.
I felt like just giving up on life. I actually had suicide thought to my head at 6th grade.
I felt alone for a long time, and I actually thought about killing myself.
Whether it's homicidal violence or suicidal violence, people resort to such desperate behavior only when they are feeling shame and humiliated, or feel they would be if they didn't prove that they were real men.
if you're told from day one, don't let nobody disrespect you, and this is the way you handle it as a man, respect is linked to violence.
If I can man up, I step down from that, you feel me?
It's like instinct.
Act like a man. Be a man.
Be a man.
For my kids, I was going to end this hyper-masculine narrative here.
All right, so that really touches me every time I see it. That's just a small glimpse of how this program can be. As you can see, these are real issues faced every single day by men of color, especially men of color. So, what are we doing to improve that? What are we doing to make a difference for these young men? All right. So with this program, it would really help these kids to grow, to really find themselves, and to find success in the future. So let's make a difference, and let's create better leaders for tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Next we have Brittany Mejia, who will touch on multi-status families.
Hello all, thanks for coming. Like you said, my name is Brittany Mejia, and my part of the program addresses culture in multi-status families. Multi-status families is a relatively new word, and what it means is in one family there could be a mother who is an undocumented person, a father who is a citizen, and children that are first-generation Americans. So the purpose of this series is to paint the cultural landscape that surrounds us in Gainesville and the larger United States in order to gain respect for the family, self, and raza. We aim to explain the role of each member of the family, the immigrant parent opposed to the first-generation American, and bring light to the importance of each respective interpretation of culture and intergenerational dialogue to self-identity. Culture is central to our identity and to the human experience. And personally, as first-generation American, I had a lot of tiffs, problems, conflicts with my mom because she didn't understand that I wanted to fit in. Culture is adaptable, and no culture is more important, is more legitimate than another one. You can go to our next one. Our goals, for the short-term goals, would be to invoke the dialogue between the generations in order to initiate understanding for each individual's role and expression of culture, like language, music, style of dress, social norms, and values. Long-term goals would be to help navigate, acknowledge, and accept cultural differences between the generations. We aim to higher respect between the generations and appreciation for each individual's role and struggles, as well as to find love for the self, elders, and offspring. So for the short 2-week model, our target audience would, of course, be the multi-status families. It'd be in Gainesville High School, and it would be 1 day a week for 2 weeks with 1 to 2 hour sessions. We want to have like 5 families, and all you need would be a pen and a reflection notebook. The theme would be culture, education, and a speaker would be to be announced, Joe Johnson. Our facilitator would be University of Florida students. And as far as the structure, we would start off with the VIDS poem, like the one that we did today. Then we'd have a photo reflection, so it'd be 2 pictures juxtaposed to each other. One would be like an American pop singer, and another one would be one that's authentically Latin, Hispanic. Then it'd be a reflection, just writing down those emotions or those ideas that are evoked. Then there'd be a culture lesson addressing equality, adaptation, and expression of culture. Then I wanted the students or the children to write a letter to their parents. And in this letter, this would be them stating like, look, Mom and Dad, this is who I am. I appreciate all of the parts of you that I am. But there's also, there's also more to me, and there's more that this country, has impacted, and Moldini. And then we'd end with closing sentiments. For the full model, the only changes that we'd have is that it'd be for 4 weeks rather than 2, and we'd have 10 families rather than 5. The topics would be American rights and history with foreign policy, generation roles and responsibilities, respect, the body, family, and raza, and love and acceptance. The structure would be similar, although after our speaker presentations, we'd have a family discussion with the facilitators, and then a reflection minute towards the end. And on the last day of our program, I wanted to have an acceptance ceremony with a contract. So the contract would be for each individual of the family to say, okay, as your mom, as your daughter, these are my responsibilities. And the acceptance ceremony would give both generations opportunity to express their love for each other and say, I accept myself and I accept you. So I like to keep mine short and sweet because I know we run on time and it's finals week. So the next part would be our resource guide, which are these beautiful books that were created by Jocelyn Padron Resines, Johnny Mendez, and Carlos Soria.
Hello, everyone. You don't want to receive the guide? We don't have any. Sorry. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn Padron Resines.
Hi, my name is Honey Mendez.
And my name is Carlos Soria.
Is everyone still with us? I know it's been kind of running really long, but we are the third and final installment of the Latino Diaspora project. And before we begin, we're just going to say a couple of excerpts from our interviews that we did that will kind of give you a background on why we were inspired to create a resource guide for the Gainesville community.
Okay, so one of the quotes that stood out to me when I interviewed my mom was, when I came to this country, there were many opportunities that I didn't know about.
Alright, so I interviewed my grandfather, and something that I learned that actually inspired me to do this project and work on the education part was when he said, la educación es un arma que nadie podrá robar. Cuando se adquiere conocimiento, es tuyo para siempre. And it basically means education is a weapon that nobody can take away from you, and once you have knowledge, it will be yours forever. And of course, he was referring to his education in the communist system and how it, his passion for education is something that no regime or no government can ever take away from you, and it becomes a weapon to be free no matter where you are and who you're with.
And I interviewed my mom, so to give a little bit of context, this was in response to when I asked her if she would do everything the same again by moving to this country, if she wouldn't take it back. And she basically told me that she would do everything the same, however, she didn't expect a lot of the obstacles that came in the way of her family. And kind of like a little hint of advice she told me as an immigrant, she said, este país te lo puede dar todo y te lo puede quitar todo. Basically saying that this country can give you everything, but it can also take everything away from you. So what we did with these oral interviews is that's kind of like our personal stories on why we decided to create a resource guide, because all of us here in this group are actually immigrants that came into this country, and many of our families didn't have the resources or a lot of the knowledge that we would have liked to. So we created this guide just because we knew we wanted to provide the Gainesville community here something that we wish we would have had when we would have been moving to a new city in the United States. This is reflected in the mission statement, so you guys all have the resource guide in front of you. It's called the Guide to Gainesville. And it's actually, this mission statement is on the first page when you open it, and it just kind of states what we wanted to do with this guide. It's basically saying, like, our goal is for the community here to utilize this resource guide to help answer questions and help them in their daily life as citizens of Gainesville.
As Jocelyn was saying, our goal is to provide the Gainesville community with an accessible outlet of resources that could help them in their daily lives. Also, another goal is to service the growing immigrant population in this city by not only making the guide bilingual in English and Spanish, but taking it into account of those undocumented individuals and their needs.
Yes, as you can see on the guide, the left side is in English and the right side is in Spanish. And some pages both have the English and Spanish translation on the same page. So we did this because there's a large sector of the Gainesville community who does speak Spanish and might not know English. So we wanted to accommodate for all of the citizens in Gainesville.
So how will this project be distributed? Well, this guide will be a four-print publication that we pass along with La Guia, a bilingual guide created by the Rural Women's Health Project, which includes a list of helpful contacts in the city. It would actually include different publications. This is the first edition, and we will add information. For example, Carmen's project will be added to this particular guide and will be used in her series. In addition, the guide will be passed out in key locations around Gainesville, such as the Institute of Hispanic-Latino Cultures, Alachua County Library, the Civic Engagement and Family Program classes in high schools in Alachua County, and the Boys and Girls Club, and other youth-oriented services in Gainesville.
Yeah, so what you have in front of you is actually just pretty much like a rough draft of what we wanted to do with this guide. And as Carmen said, before we actually print it out for the entire Gainesville community, this will be used in her class to get feedback from that focus group. And if there's any information that they feel that is missing on the guide, we will then be adding it to the guide, finishing the layout to then actually printing the first edition of it. And our goal is to continue the editions after we leave as students, because the Gainesville community, there's always new people here every day, so we always want this guide to be continued later on. And this is just kind of the content of the guide. The content is on the second page when you open it. It says content/contenido. So we included a welcome message, of course, just kind of welcome people to the city of Gainesville and to the guide. It's really important to kind of do so to make it more of like welcoming. This is a very family-friendly guide. We also found it really important. We were asking ourselves the questions of what we would have wanted help in when we were new citizens to a city. Like what was the knowledge that we would have wanted to receive? So first we put where people could get immigration classes, and this is in reference to knowledge on how to become a citizen or visa or processes like that. We also included English classes, like where people could get tutored if they only know one language and they want to learn English. Very important. And also a large sector of the Gainesville community is of a socioeconomic lower status. So we wanted to include places in the community that they could get food or clothes at a cheaper price or completely free. This is really important for a lot of families here. And also places to visit, because people work a lot, and sometimes it's really important to kind of take a break. And we included places to visit in Gainesville that are either cheap, like reduced price, or completely free, so that people can do it with their family. And all the places we put are family-friendly places.
So for the legal resources, we compiled 5 different, usually nonprofit organizations or attorneys that are willing to provide legal services for free or for an affordable price. They're usually located in the city of Gainesville. For example, the Southern Legal Council is here, but they're also located around the city of Gainesville, for example, in Ocala and places like that. And it is important in this section. You can also include, it is included something, your rights as an immigrant for undocumented persons that are able to read this and just have a reference of what to do in case you're faced with any legal concerns and problems.
Okay, so in the health section, there's common questions of uninsured and insured medical care. So there's usually people that don't know how to get medical care when they're either insured or not, or if they're legal or not. So in this section, it will cover like most of that.
Well, I work in the section for education, and as it says on the slide, is that we included something like important tips on how to get to college and also enrollment to apply to college, and important things on finances and how to fill out FAFSA and all of these things that are really important. I came here when I was 10 years old, and my parents don't know much about the education system, and it didn't hit me until I was sitting in my freshman year summer B that I looked and I was like, that's the American flag. I'm not in the University of Havana, Cuba. I'm in the United States. And it was really overwhelming, because I'm like, I have this amazing opportunity that I am a student at a university in the United States. And knowing that that opportunity is available, but how to get there might be the struggle that a lot of people and a lot of immigrants are facing, and we just want to provide a guide on how to reach that opportunity.
In the family care section, we also have a list of childcare and daycare centers around the community. You know, some people don't have time to take care of their kids when they're working 2 jobs or they don't have family here, so we provided a list of that. We also provided a job section where you can find local job centers, also how to build your resume, stuff like that, that can make you a better candidate for better jobs.
Yeah, so kind of to conclude this entire 3-section project, we first of all want to say thank you to everyone who helped us and gave us advice on how we could accomplish this task of helping the Gainesville community. So these are all the people that contributed to this final product. And just to kind of to conclude the entire thing, it's really important to kind of say what Professor Lara told us the first day of class. As soon as we sat in class, she told us, you do not change the community changes you. And this set the tone for the rest of the semester, because for the entire semester, we were learning about the Latino community in the Americas. And for the first time as students, we had a syllabus that the majority, if not all of the work, were from minority authors. And this gave us an example of how we, as people of color, what we could contribute not only to the, entire world, but our local communities. And from very early on, she told us, how could we as students and as individuals contribute to the Latino community here? Because oftentimes as students, you kind of just, hey, go to class, UF, but you don't realize that there's an entire city around you. And you are more than just a UF student. You are a human, and how can you help others? Because as individuals, we were helped by other people too who came before us. For part of the class syllabus, we had to actually help teach English classes to immigrants or people that didn't talk Spanish, as well as we engaged in oral interviews, and this kind of just helped us overall, by not only involving us in the Gainesville community, we also learned aspects of what we could include in our projects that would help them. Because this project is a 3-step series on how to help the Gainesville community here. And I hope you all really enjoyed this. We had a great time kind of doing a self-reflection on how we could contribute to this community here. And again, this is a rough draft of what we all want to implement in the spring. So what we just showed you is the step-by-step process of what's actually going to happen in the spring. So the classes by Lana and Ortiz are actually going to teach it to high school and middle school students, as well as the family engagement series is going to be taught, and our resource guide will hopefully be printed and used later on. And I guess before we kind of conclude, we want to say a quick thank you to an individual who we want to say thank you to an individual who not only has shaped our lives personally, but as students. And if Brittany could say,
many of us know Professor Lara. I say that because she's earned that title because of all the work that she's done. But we know her as Genesis, and she's like a big sister and a dear friend to all of us, and we understand how important putting together the class and then, teaching the class and then helping us put together this project. A lot of us have had professors that kind of, they give you a project and they kind of walk away from it, and every step of the way she has been right there with us. So we just want to say thank you for giving us a place to learn and reflect. And because of how much faith you have in us and in what we're doing, we can now teach other people how to reflect, and that's very important. So we just want to say from the bottom of our hearts that we love you and thank you for giving us a second family.
Also, I want to open the floor for any questions or comments. Any comments?
They've worked also tremendous, and I think none of us had people were getting into the semester, the first semester's done, so it's kind of a trial run. But I think what they presented today shows how much care and how much commitment went into this, and how much love went in from every single person in here. They're the best students I think anybody could have ever had. So we, like Jocelyn said, we really do want to implement this next semester. So we want nice feedback from all people in the audience as to how you think this program is feasible, suggestions, comments. If what do you think about it? And we'll keep this short because we know it's getting kind of late and people want to go home and it's getting cold. So yeah, we can open up the floor to questions, comments.
Don't be shy.
one of the things that I can see that it's going to be a huge challenge that I don't think was addressed as fully is literacy. So that may be something that they need to be focused, because this is all great and it can work and it can be wonderful and it touch people's lives, but the literacy is the big problem in the sense of that's why people stay isolated. It goes beyond not even knowing the language. They can't navigate in any language. So that would suggest that maybe something, which is huge. You're not going to address it, but at least make some component that will kind of capture that a little bit. You can't fix it all, but I mean, this is wonderful. This is great. Breathtaking, actually.
A great start would be to look at the resource guide and make it almost kind of like almost like a picture book. Like this is where you go for this resource, because we're not necessarily sure a new arrival's reading level.
I just have to say how wonderful it is just to hear these, young professionals express such a passion for what they are doing and what they believe in. I'm a postdoc here, and I'm Dominican, and this. My brother just migrated here from the Dominican Republic, and so we're new to the community. So this is really refreshing just to see us.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Very nice.
I think I would, first off, I just say I really appreciate the presentation. I would just add, definitely look into using video, like they said, because social media is big, and now you also got to think about who has access to some of this stuff, but using audio or video to explain as part of the resource guide. And I don't know who mentioned it, but somebody said, I don't. Students might not need to go to this one because they may have never had any type of abuse or something. I think there's power in everybody's story. So even if something has not happened to you, just being in the room and being in somebody's presence and listening, you're going to learn, you're going to get something out of it. So I think they got to go to every single one.
Yeah.
They're part of it, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to throw that in there. But I think you all did a great job.
And to be honest, especially when you're talking about like domestic violence, most people don't even know that it might be something that they've heard, experienced, or whatnot. So I agree with Joe, it's important. But it's an amazing job. Totally made this 12-hour day worth it.
I just want to congratulate all of you. I'm still learning English. I came to the United States 3 years ago. So this is really helpful. This will make a big difference to many, many people, women, and the men and children that come here with many hopes, but that sometimes is difficult for them. So I am talking on behalf of those people who really struggle with many things here. And I have worked in Guatemala for 6 years with this kind of projects, and I can tell that this is the most rewarding work and job. And probably it's not the best paid jobs, but and I can tell that. But it's a job that you make with your heart, and it's the most rewarding one. So congratulations to all of you.
We have snacks in the back real quick, and just want to say thank you so much. Okay?